Let's get sweaty.
Hey guys, welcome to another Shenmue Dojo video. Today I'm going to pick up on a comment that was made on my Shenmue 3 video around whether Shenmue 3 should have ended the story or not, because it's led into the inspiration for this video, which is essentially the question I'm asking is RYO underpowered in Shenmue 3? Or does the story make it look that way? So before sort of diving into the context and bits and pieces that I want to talk about, I'll pull up the comment that inspired this. I also want to thank the user who sort of popped this up for me. So Anonymous One, thank you dropping in on the content, and thank you for watching and engaging in this conversation, helping inspire this video. Made the comment around essentially that fair point. Shenmue 3 only takes place, it's in fact a few days after Shenmue 2. Ryo's beaten Donio with counter elbow assault, but then can't beat a random thug without learning a special move. So I thought I'd take that on at its surface value and then look at sort of the way Shenmue 3 executed Ryo and his character, his skill set, and the skill set of the people we come across, and whether he's actually underpowered or it's the way things have been set up that make it look that way. So let's sort of do a little recap here in terms of Shenmue 2 and Shenmue 3. So Shenmue 3 is obviously set a few days after the ending of Shenmue 2, so I completely understand the point. My argument here, what I hope to present, is that Ryo hasn't lost his skills, but that it might be down to the story execution itself. So, Shenmue 2, let's have a look at this a little bit very quickly, do a quick recap for those of you. I'm sure you know it anyway, but it helps set the context of where I'm going. So we have to understand that masters come in all shapes and sizes, the Wood and the Dolnio moment. As we know, Ryo has to learn the Wood in Shenmue 2. He is then, once he does this, he meets Ewing, doesn't realise who she is, and then she calls him out and says, essentially, you only have Gon and Dan, but lack the other Wood in terms of having the virtues to be a martial arts master. Now, the four Wood are virtues to be a martial arts master. They all live by them. As we know, Ryo judges Ewing by her appearance, gets his ass kicked by her vastly superior skill set. He can't get close to her. And then there's the question how he take down Lan Di. And then later on, she teaches him how to clear his mind to execute the counter elbow assault, clear the mind like a polished mirror. Kai also leans into that a little bit with using the mind's eye to see in the dark, to obviously predict moves and predict the kung fu that's going to be used in order to counter an attack. Then this leads on to the rooftop where obviously Ryo successfully takes down Dolnio with the counter elbow assault. And this is the first time he executes this in a actual cutscene fight. Obviously, you can use it in game if you want to, but in the story moment, this is the one and only time that he's been successful at this point of executing a mind like a clear like a polished mirror, and taking down an opponent who was stronger than him, potentially more skilled than him. It's, so at this point, it looks like a one-off, but he's on his journey to understanding the Wood, understanding how to clear his mind, and hopefully that lust for vengeance is dying away. Coming into Shenmue 3 Ryo, as I said, it's set a few days after the ending of Shenmue 2. So he comes in having learnt those values from Shenmue 2, but he's very, very much still a very raw product here. He's 18, he's young, he's blinded by his lust for vengeance, which is very important, and he's still in need of training. Has he improved? Absolutely, he's improved. Lan Di even tells him that when he sees him at the end of Shenmue 3. But the setup and the background in 3 is what I think makes Ryo come across as underpowered in my view. So when he meets Yang Lang, who you all see in Bailu Village, he is dispatched twice before learning the body check to defeat him. Now, the principle in Notion is essentially the same as in Shenmue 2. You learn a special move to take down a powerful foe. In Shenmue 2, obviously you don't know who you're taking down at this point, or the context it may or may not be used. In Shenmue 3, it's a lot more blatant and obvious in that sense. So there's already there sort of a, why are you learning this in Shenmue 2? But in Shenmue 3, it's obvious you're learning it to take somebody down. The difference here in Shenmue 3 is you've got no real background on Yang Lang at all. Like, bearing in mind he's in the chapter tiles, and he's in there, I think, twice, if my memory serves it correctly, or his even skill set, his style of martial arts, or anything like that. So, rolling this in a little bit, if they had set him up, bearing in mind they set Dol Neo up as this big, powerful, sort of endgame boss, if you like, can you imagine had they set Yang Lang up in a very similar way, essentially, that he's potentially a master of his style. His skill set isn't, on the level of Ewing's, for example, but could be one that's attainable to Ryo within Shenmue 3 or within that portion of Shenmue 3, which then gives you your lead into the training arc, I guess. We know he then sort of has to be leaned into his sort of very headstrong approach. Ryo's headstrong, he overestimates his skills, and he also judges people by their appearance. He did it with Ewing, and he probably did it with Jianmin as well. He wasn't, and his style around Tai Chi, he judges people for what they see, not what's inside, not what's underneath that initial layer. So maybe when he goes to fight Yang Lang, he's already got this headstrong moment in his head. He doesn't give him the respect he deserved, and he's obviously handily beaten. Bearing in mind he's still blinded for his lust for vengeance. He's only been able to clear his mind and execute a move once. So, with this lust for vengeance and this inability to use the skill effectively and consistently, that means he lacks the kung fu to read his opponent, and also the physical moves in terms of something to negate the style of Yang Lang. And this is where it should really have gone into Yang Lang's style a little bit more. And it does with Mr. G in Niaowu, in that Ryo has to go around and learn the style and learn how to negate it. And then learn the physical move to then defeat it. But what I think 3 lacks a little bit with both of these elements, but particularly Yang Lang's side of things in Bailu, is linking it to the Wood. It's all well and good being able to learn a move and execute it, and that's it. And that's very much what Shenmue 3 does, and that's a fair criticism of it. What it needed to have done, and I think what would have helped in terms of sort of showing Ryo's power sort of at a Shenmue 2 level, but that he still has a long way to go, is actually linking that into the Wood, linking that into his training arc, linking that into how he defeats Yang Lang, how he breaks that down, how he gains his kung fu to read his opponent, read the situation, learn the body check, and then execute that body check for the win. That's the difference here. The notion of it, the principle of it, is exactly the same as in Shenmue 2, but what they don't do in 3 is present Ryo being as headstrong as he is. He sort of just dives in but doesn't really give any context to it, or the wound that he isn't using, or the fact that his kung fu, it's mentioned it's lacking, but doesn't really go into any detail in that. And also the setup for these people. Mr. G is done better than Yang Lang in that it shows off his style a bit more and does show him as some sort of threat, even if it is a slight repetition on the Bailu Village arc, whereas Yang Lang isn't really set up at all. He's just a thug, really, and that's how he's presented. So it comes down to the presentation of these characters as well, that if you present them as a threat, if you give them some background, give them some story, and sort of present them as a little bit above Ryo. So Ryo's here, and Yang Lang's here. That's the difference. And then Ryo gets his training arc to get to here, and then get to here to then beat him. And actually, you see it with Chai. Like in Shenmue 3, he dispatches Chai really, really easily. When you think back to Shenmue 1, he has to learn some moves, he has to train, and then so he goes from sort of Chai being here, Ryo being here, so it's pretty closely fought, and then Ryo's now sort of well above Chai in Shenmue 3 and dispatches him easily. So again, it's his training, it's his development, but what you don't have in 3 is that context around the training, the development, and the threat of the person that you're going for. Ryo isn't close to being a master yet, and what they didn't do, as I've explained, is probably down to the time and the money it took to build Shenmue 3, etc, etc. And then what it's had the residual effect of doing is essentially lessening the threat of these people that Ryo's going up against, all the skill set, and therefore making him look underpowered in Shenmue 3. Hopefully Shenmue 4 can rectify that and actually give us those context, give us those story elements that show Ryo's development, and Shenmue 3's training arc is fine. It's absolutely fine. But it just needed more to sort of build that up. And then Shenmue 4, if they can do all of that, give context and the threat to the characters that Ryo is going up against, then I think you get a true reflection of his skill set. So guys, what do you think about Ryo in Shenmue 3? Is he underpowered or is it down to the story and how it was executed? Drop us a comment below, guys. Thank you for dropping in on all the content as always, and I will be back with a video in the not too distant future. But for now, guys, take care and have a good one.